To be or not to be decolonised? That is the question, apparently. In the latest episode of Cancel Culture Theatre, the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust has announced plans to decolonise Shakespeare's birthplace in Stratford-upon-Avon, which is weird because Stratford-upon-Avon wasn't colonised by Britain. It's just in Britain. Britain didn't colonise itself, although it does now seem to be colonised by communist morons who tried to make everything racist. Even Shakespeare, who was born in 1564, so wouldn't have been around enough sub-Saharan Africans to actually develop racism. But according to the wokists who curate our heritage, venerating Shakespeare as a universal genius now benefits the ideology of white European supremacy. I mean, they're right that Western Europe was responsible for a vast majority of documented human achievements in the arts and sciences from the 14th century to 1950. I've heard of reparations for slavery, but now, apparently, we've got to be punished not for the sins of our ancestors, but for their achievements as well. Doesn't really seem fair. The Trust's initiative stems from a 2022 research project in collaboration with Dr. Helen Hopkins of Birmingham City University. The study suggests that presenting Shakespeare as the pinnacle of literary achievement perpetuates white, Anglo-centric, Eurocentric, and increasingly West-centric worldviews that continue to do harm in the world today. By harm, she presumably means support civilization and provide a modern standard of living for billions of people. In response to this academic study, the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust plans to explore the continued impact of empire on its collections and how Shakespeare's work has played a part in this, which reveals their historical ignorance, as Shakespeare's writing was all done in the couple of decades or so from the 1590s until his death in 1616. This is well before the British Empire got going in any meaningful sense beyond a few trading posts. But who needs to be historical when you can be hysterical? And they've agreed to create a more inclusive museum experience. Why don't they make it inclusive to the sort of people who'll actually pay money to visit a Shakespeare museum? I think you know the sort of people I'm talking about. And get a load of this. The Trust has stated that the historical materials it holds may represent values and stereotypes that are not consistent with the current values and practices of its organisation. Yeah, it was 500 years ago. Obviously Shakespeare didn't see modern stagnation era neo-communist hypersensitivity coming down the line. The Trust has warned those who view its manuscripts and artefacts that they may encounter language or depictions that are racist, sexist, homophobic or otherwise harmful. Harmful. It's incredible how the meaning of words changes. Shakespeare's plays will harm you now. Oh, don't go near that iambic pentameter, it'll have your eye out. The Trust says, we are currently implementing practices that seek to address offensive or harmful depictions as a part of our cataloguing work. This will better inform current and future interpretation and collections management practice as we explore the process of decolonising our collections. This is all going to result in some dull communist apparatchik going through Shakespeare's verse and rewriting it. They did this with Roald Dahl. They changed the text in The Witches from "Don't be foolish," my grandmother said. You can't go around pulling the hair of every lady you meet, even if she is wearing gloves. Just you try it and see what happens. They deleted that and changed it to this. Don't be foolish, my grandmother said. Besides, there are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there is certainly nothing wrong with that. Can you imagine if this person ever read a Bukowski book? Their head would explode. I know it's vitally important to get the message across that some women wear wigs, but do you have to trample all over Roald Dahl's mellifluous prose to do so? I feel like a butterfly is being crushed on a wheel here. Wokists delude themselves that the market demands this, that nobody would visit the Shakespeare Museum or buy Roald Dahl books without this Orwellian rewrite of history to bring it into line with this week's partisan sensibilities. But that's nonsense. People want the authentic original text and meaning. It's a tie to the past. It's our heritage. Would the same people bulldoze an Aboriginal cave painting and replace it with a Banksy? What annoys me about this is that I'd understand if some fringe lefty student radical group was saying all this, like Just Stop Oil or the Conservative Party, but this is the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust. It's supposed to be on Shakespeare's side. It was established in 1847 and looks after properties connected to Shakespeare. His childhood home, the cottage where his wife Anne Hathaway grew up. No, not that Anne Hathaway, a different one from the old days, that's better. And the family home that Shakespeare and Anne shared for 19 years. Why is it succumbing to this weird modern self-loathing, this race communist drive to destroy all white culture? Yes, Shakespeare is seen as a universal genius. It doesn't mean that some guy in Africa can't be. Fela Kuti is still incredibly talented. Although Africa didn't produce a Shakespeare in Tudor times as far as we know, because it's got thousands of languages, but the vast majority aren't written down, and it's kind of hard to preserve a folio of plays plays across centuries via the medium of Chinese whispers, although some of those guys did shake a spear. But instead of defending Shakespeare, the Trust is taking on board the advice that the narrative of Shakespeare's greatness has caused harm through the epistemic violence. If you don't know what epistemic violence is, it's a fancy academic word meaning non-existent violence. But the Trust is pressing ahead with plans to address these concerns. The Trust has secured funding to promote diversity and inclusion, with events celebrating Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore and a Romeo and Juliet inspired Bollywood dance workshop, which will no doubt get shut down for cultural appropriation. But what's Bollywood got to do with Shakespeare? And this isn't the first time Shakespeare has been the target of woke deconstructionists. The Globe Theatre in London ran a series of seminars titled Anti-Racist Shakespeare, which promoted scholarship focused on the idea of race in his plays. Entertaining. Academies taking part in the series made a number of claims, including that King Lear was about whiteness and that the character of Prince Hamlet holds racist views of black people. But of course this is happening. All organisations now have diversity coordinators who have a stated aim of promoting good relations and practices towards different minority groups and making everything inclusive, which is totally unnecessary because they didn't have a policy of excluding ethnic minorities before. Everyone's welcome at these museums. But these diversity coordinators have to justify their salaries, so they have to do something. So they pretend racism is there when it isn't, and initiatives with big budgets that they control are vital to save the organisation from this invisible bigotry. You could say that diversity coordinators make much ado about nothing. While the Trust's efforts aim to create a more inclusive museum experience, I can't help but wonder if this endeavour is a solution in search of a problem. After all, Shakespeare's works have been translated into every major language and are performed worldwide, transcending cultural boundaries. I hope they decolonise Isaac Newton's legacy next and ban gravity for being racist, so that these communist fannies just drift off into space without any need to be launched from a helicopter. But this could seriously backfire. Attacks on cultural figures and totems like Shakespeare, particularly when framed as critiques of a broader white or Western tradition, will contribute to a sense of alienation and grievance amongst native white people. It's openly anti-white. Subjugating the native majority like this is a recipe for disaster, especially when it's done so arrogantly by organisations lacking legitimacy on behalf of a minority that haven't asked for it. And it's so weird that at a time of economic decline with a government hemorrhaging money, there's still money sloshing around to pay for anti-white academic studies and to pay for diversity coordinators to sit in every organisation pushing these ideologies that at best get in people's way and at worst could be precipitating a civil war. All's well that ends well? Nah, I think there could be a tempest. Anyway, click here to watch a video of my stand-up on grooming gangs, Islamophobia, Russell Brand and being diddled. And if you want to support me making these videos and get some exclusive content and live streams and stuff, then sign up to my Patreon. There's a link below. Okay, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kears. Bye. Bye bye.